Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasted on Channels Television live from Lagos. We now bring you some of the pictures you sent to our eyewitness portal. And first is this one from Kontagora in Niger State, showing a lot of vehicles queued up for fuel. Our eyewitness reporter says fuel is still hard to come by in the state. Next is this one from Ore in Ondo State, showing the meter in a filling station that reads the selling price at 130 naira per litre as against the 87 naira official price. Our eyewitness reporter wants the government to look into this. And finally, it's this one from Surulere in Lagos State, showing a tricycle accident. Our eyewitness reporter wants tricycle riders to exercise more caution on the roads. And we thank you so much indeed for sending in those pictures, as we ask that you keep them coming. The beginning of the new year seems like the perfect time to set goals for the year ahead, because it's when people look back and take stock on the past year and what they would like to change. Yet, studies have shown that less than 10% of those who make those actually keep these resolutions. Our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf highlights some common health resolutions and how to succeed at keeping them.
Top resolutions which recur every year are the decision to lose weight, quit smoking, and quit or reduce alcohol intake.
Every year that goes by, you grow older. So you must reduce your stress.
I will stop taking carbonated drinks.
I discovered that eating carelessly affects life, and the quality of food you eat also affects life.
I noticed that whenever I stop the exercise, I keep on adding weight.
All laudable goals, but why do people keep failing at them? Psychologists suggest that people set their minds on unrealistic goals and expect overnight success. To lose weight successfully, dietitians advise you eat healthy food and make small, measurable goals that you are ready to follow through for a long time. It will be helpful to have a food journal to keep track of what you eat and your progress.
Cut out the carbohydrates as much as you can. Increase the amount of vegetables and fruits. Increase the amount of healthy fats that you have. That is the what.
Of course, exercise is a good complement to proper diet.
It's good for weight loss. It's good to relieve stress as well. It releases some hormones that are really good, happy hormones that help you relieve stress. So it's a good way to relieve stress, a good way to get energy back.
And that's why, if you're the type who works too hard, you need to loosen up. Experts say the lack of a good social life can be as bad as damage caused by alcohol use and smoking. So take some time out to get with friends or family and relax. According to scientists, cigarettes contain more than 7,000 cancer-causing agents. Drinking alcohol in excess increases the risk of liver and heart disease, as well as mental deterioration. But think of what you could save by quitting. While some people can stop these habits by themselves, others may need the doctor's help.
Sometimes in breaking the patterns, it may require changing friends. It may require changing the interpretation of the situation, saying that, okay, how else can I resolve my stress? Cigarette is not the only way out.
Doctors say having friends who support you to achieve your goals could be a great asset, so tell one or more people who help without judging. And if you fail,
Maybe I will just put more effort.
just pick yourself up and try again. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
The use of consumer fireworks can lead to devastating burns, other injuries and even death. This statement is credited to the Chief Medical Director of the Federal Medical Center, Asaba Delta State, Dr. Osiajuma Victor, when Channels Television visited a victim of the Firecracker incident at the hospital. The victim gives an account of what's actually happened and what he's been through since the incident occurred.
This is the children's ward of the Federal Medical Center, Asaba, Delta State. The Chief Medical Director of the hospital, accompanied by other hospital officials, leads the crew to the victim. The mutilated arm was caused by this particular firecracker, and the doctors say that this arm may be amputated.
I lit the knockout. I held it in my hand. So it thing blasted in my hand. When it thing blasted, it thing covered my eye and my ear. I couldn't see and I couldn't hear well. After 1 minute, the thing went off. What I'll tell them is that let them just stop shooting that knockout. That is not good. That what they're putting in the knockout is not a good material that is using to make that knockout.
My advice to other persons out there is that the banger they are seeing now is not the type that has been there before. This one that they are seeing now is really a bomb. It's not really knockout as per se. Children should go away from it. Parents should look after their children, not giving them money this period for them to go and buy whatever, what knockout or whatever.
Perhaps a lot of people are still very ignorant of the negative effects and dangers of some of these firecrackers. It is always advisable not to purchase or possess fireworks. Instead, watching public displays of fireworks conducted by trained professionals remains the safest. So let's celebrate the safe way, keeping in mind that all fireworks are illegal.
How to provide quality education has continued to be a challenge to governments across Africa. Well, here in Nigeria, the government takes the funding of education, the joint responsibility of the federal, state, local governments and the private sector. To this end, the private sector have been providing education at various levels in order to complement the efforts of the government. As part of our End of Year 2015 series, this next report takes a look at the role of the private sector in the provision of quality education in the country.
Education is a vehicle for national development. This is the reason why governments all over the world commit huge sums of money to the sector. To this end, the federal government introduced universal primary education, which later transformed into the universal basic education. The continued policy somersault in the education sector has led to the proliferation of nursery and primary schools. The question on the lips of educationists is whether these schools have impacted positively on the quality of basic education in Nigeria.
Access and quality is still a problem. Why? Because those behind most of these private schools are not actually there to help the economy to develop. They are there for business. Ironically, I must let you know that most of the public primary schools I have visited are doing far better than the so-called private ones.
The Minister of State for Education, however, decried the proliferation of these schools and announced federal government's plan to restore sanity.
We need to totally go back to the drawing board to see what we are doing and the basic level of education in this country, because we've gotten it wrong.
Beyond the establishment of these schools, many of which are located in environments that are not conducive for learning, most of these private nursery and primary schools lack basic sporting facilities such as playgrounds and football pitches. Some Nigerians speak on ways to ensure standards and arrest the proliferation.
The regulatory agency, Primary and Secondary School Board, should ensure that if a school is to be established, it must have a playground, must have a sporting facilities, must have the toilet system especially.
The Federal Ministry of Education or the State Education Board, the monitoring unit must be strengthened to ensure that they pay regular visit to these schools.
Although the Ministry of Education has announced plans to ensure strict adherence to set standards before licenses are granted to nursery and primary schools to operate, regular supervision should also be conducted on the existing primary and nursery schools in order to ensure that competent and qualified teachers are recruited and retained for continuity.
We have to take a holistic look at our efforts in education. As a country, plan responsive curriculum, a curriculum that meets the demands of the child, his aspirations, his career vision. The school system, the nation, the industry, we just don't go to school because that is school to go to. You go to school to achieve an aim and a purpose.
The unregulated privatization of education in Nigeria may have led to the proliferation of schools, colleges and tertiary institutions throughout the country. But the present administration's resolve to arrest the situation will surely gladden the hearts of many who desire quality education.
Well, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by Dr. Sali Aduko Bolojuko, an educationist from the nation's capital in Abuja. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on the news at 10 at this time. Do you suppose the budget 2016 has significantly captured the education sector to fund it? We're talking about 369.6 billion naira. If you could hear me, let me just take that again. Do you suppose that the budget 2016 has significantly captured the education sector to fund it? We're looking at the figures now, 369.6 billion naira for the education sector in the 2016 budget.
Yes, I think this is in fact a major leap from where we have been before. If you look at the 2016 budget, you find that it is the second largest. And the Ministry of Power, Housing, and Works is a bloated ministry that could jolly well be said to have two ministries put together. So when you look at 4 billion plus they have and 369.6 billion that education has, I want to say that education has the largest budget this year. And that is what it should be, because education is the factor, the major factor of development that any nation would have. Even if we put half the budget of this country to education, we will be on the right track, because then we'll be developing quality human capital, which is lacking in the country today.
How would you generally describe the standards of education in Nigeria?
In the right direction.
If you could hear me, yes, I'm just asking, how would you generally describe the standard of education in Nigeria today?
It is low. The standard of education in this country is low. It leaves a lot to be desired. Look at public education. They have dilapidated buildings. In some places, children's school under the trees. They don't have enough teachers, and textbooks, exercise books lacking. It's only in the private education sector you find what is close to quality education in this country. So the curriculum itself is not addressing the issues of this country.
Now,
so
you just mentioned the private schools, the private institutions. What, in your view, do they require to improve the standards expected from those category of learning institutions? What is responsible for some of the what they lack? I'm just really curious about that.
Funding. A lot of what we lack in the public education sector is funding. And you find that the administration of education itself is faulty. The budget is not tracked. The budget is not put to financing the school system. Teachers, most of the time, are not paid. Materials are not there. Classrooms are in shambles. We don't have seats. In some places, children take their chairs to school. In the private sector, where people are striving to give quality education, you find that they borrow from the bank, pay between 25 to 30% interest to develop schools and bring quality equipment to teach the children. And we pay high salary, plus multiple taxation that the education administrators burden the private education with. So funding is major, but curriculum should be looked at so that curriculum should be producing the Nigerian personality. We shouldn't in this country be running foreign curriculum, British curriculum, American curriculum, Turkish curriculum, and you can't be producing an American child in Nigeria. Education is supposed to forge the personality of a child and make him functional for his own society and community.
Dr. Sali,
so I think
Bolujoko,
that we
want to
got
thank
to
you so
settle
much
down.
indeed for your time
Yes.
and your thoughts. I understand my director also telling me there's a little delay in you hearing me, but we do appreciate your time and your thoughts. Many thanks indeed. In part two, after the break, in continuation of the review for the year, Anambra State Governor Willie Obiano holds annual Thanksgiving service in his hometown.